What's up, everyone? Welcome back to the second episode of REV Bookshelf. I am Josh alongside the lovely Soul,
Hello,
and we
hello.
are talking about The Space Between Worlds by Micaiah Johnson. Did I pronounce her name correctly? I always screw it
Good
up.
job.
Every time I do an advertisement for our show, I screw her name up every damn time. So I want to make sure I got that right. Also, shout out to the music intro. Hopefully Google Dolls did not try and sue them because that was Iris. Do not tell me that was not Iris.
It felt
I
like
wanted
it,
to be
didn't
like,
it?
and I don't want the world to see me. Listen to it again. Go back to the intro, ladies and gentlemen. Listen to it. That's totally Iris. You can't tell me it's not. But so, how we doing? This book was different. I will say that. It was different in a good way. Very good character the way she wrote characters, and it wasn't the typical over the top stuff that you typically. It was over the top in the sci-fi aspect, but the characters themselves were not over the top and very relatable to a world we have no clue about.
Yeah. Going into non-spoiler thoughts here. So if you haven't read the book yet, you can stay here for a little bit, listen to our non-spoiler thoughts, leave, go read the book, then come back and join us. But I loved this book, and this book is set kind of in a futuristic world with technology that does not exist now, but it still speaks to issues that exist now, but it still does it in an interesting way, and it's kind of in the background to a lot of things, and it doesn't hammer you over the head with it, because you're really more focused on the characters and character decisions and like the plot that's going on in the book. But then every once in a while you get a little nugget here, and you're just like, ooh, that's close to home.
Right.
But I really think that Micaiah Johnson did it brilliantly, and we're gonna definitely get into it when we get into spoilers. But do you have any other non-spoiler thoughts?
I didn't love it as much as you did, but I like I said, I did enjoy it. I thought it was the character. Like I said, the character work was very well written. I just thought the pacing for the type I was expecting a little bit differently, based on the, you're traveling between worlds and stuff like that. You thought it'd be, but it's much more slower paced. It's much more. It's so grounded in how vast it is. And
Yeah,
it took me a while to get that, because going into it, I'm like, oh, we're gonna go here, we're gonna go here, we're gonna go here, we're gonna meet all these people. I mean, it was much more grounded for as much as it offered.
yeah,
So that threw me off, and then the ending wasn't in my mind. Like, okay, this is where the fan, where you're okay. Here's where it's going to go, and then you're wrong, and it's a little not what you thought. Maybe anticlimactic to me, but I don't think that's the point of the book.
yeah.
And so that's the reason I didn't love it, but I also very much enjoyed it, is because it was a different spin on something you suspect would be, oh, we're going to go all these worlds where it's going to be, this character.
It definitely subverted the tropes.
Right. Yes, thank you. That was the point I was trying to get at, and you nailed it in like 3 words when I try and over talk about it. But yeah, that's it. It subverted the tropes, and so once I wrapped my head around that, it was fine, and I enjoyed it. But I just was not going into it thinking it was a character piece.
Yeah, it was definitely a character piece. It was more grounded, and this book was like just a book of reveals, kind of, that you were in each section. There's 4 parts. You're getting a few reveals, and it's giving you some callbacks to stuff that happened before, things that you might not even think are important, but then they end up being important later.
Right. No, the reveals were awesome, by the way.
Yeah.
Like, because it's just like, it was like, what? I double taked a couple of times. I'm like, wait, what? Okay, did I read that right? Or also, if for those who listen to the audiobook, did I hear that right? Like, you go back and just like, has she been there the whole time? Like, that whole thing.
Yeah. Wait, let me read that paragraph one more time.
Let me read that to make sure I understood what I was reading. So, like, that's when you've written a good book, because a swerve lands like that.
Yeah.
I just thought the swerves that happened, the ending didn't capture the swerve.
Yeah, the ending kind of comes sudden, but I also give a lot of leeway to this author because it is her debut. And I can see her. She does have a sequel out. I think it's a standalone. It's on a different Earth from the one that is depicted in this book. But I have a feeling that that's probably she'll be even better in that book. And that's typically the way it goes. Like you read a debut and it's really good. You can see some of the technical difficulties here and there, but they typically get better the more they write and the more books that come out. So I am very interested to see what she does because she had her first book 2020, which was this one, her second book 2024. So I don't know what she has next. She was getting her PhD in Nashville as well, so school probably took over more than book.
A little bit. So, but yeah, no, I like I said, I didn't love it. I enjoyed it. If that's the best way to do
And
it.
that's perfectly fine.
Yeah. So you want to dive into it?
Let's dive into it. Guys, we are going full spoilers. If you have not read the book and you care about spoilers, leave now. You have been warned. If you don't care or you have read the book, thank you for staying. We love it.
Yeah.
But let's go in. So, one thing that we noticed, and it's at the start of each part, is a little bit of a discussion that is religion versus science. And we get here the first few sentences. When the multiverse was confirmed, the spiritual and scientific communities both counted it as evidence of their validity. The scientists said, look, we told you there were parallel universes. And the spiritual said, see, we've always known there was more than one life. Then in the very next sentence of this book, it says, even worthless things can become valuable once they become rare. How did you feel about this opening? Because it really sets you in.
Yeah. So when that when again, that's kind of one of the double takes. I'm like, I was going to it thinking religion was not going to be even a decimal of this book, and it was all over it. It's because doesn't matter what it is, someone still strives for something and wants to believe in something, and in a spiritual way, it's like, the always saying is like everyone, some higher being has a plan for you, right? And so even though we've gone to multiple worlds, it's like, yeah, well, the higher being was just like, there's something else out there. There's something more than what you're just seeing on your day-to-day basis. And then when science did it, people were like, yeah, see, I told you, man and women,
man created this.
Man created this. And then the spiritual world was like, no, it was already there. It just took time for us to get there because we had to go through all these other steps that they wanted us to go to of that higher power. So I thought that dichotomy was really cool, and you got nailed with at the beginning, and you saw through Kara's, and is it Kara or Kara?
I think it's Kara, but I didn't listen to the audiobook. How did the audiobook narrator say it?
She said Kara, but you know how it is. It's like you can hear someone say it and it's still not right according to the author. I don't know. Kara.
Yeah, Kara. I read it as Kara. I think it doesn't matter.
Kara makes more sense to me. Just for Kara Lee.
Yeah, I was thinking because Kara Lee and Kara Menta.
Yeah.
So I was like, if you were to say that, like Latinized Kara Menta.
Yeah.
It would be Kara. Yeah.
Yeah, Kara would just make more sense. Anyway, of her, I don't want to skip ahead, but her family situation in the part that she's not actually supposed to be at, but then whatever. Yeah. But I just thought that she was the whole time, her character was written so well in her first person perspective, and the title of the book has more weight to it than you realize throughout the whole damn thing. It's not just because she jumps with no. That's the overlying theme of the book. And that's why I said I don't, because the ending just was kind of
It's like the Family Guy, like they said the word.
Right. And but they don't preach it. They don't preach it. I know it's religion, but they don't actually just lay it out. They don't hold your hand through that, but it's really like this space is also between religion and science, not just worlds, not just other things, or the conclusion of the book. of how that character becomes. And she is going through the same thing of like her family does this, but she also works for science.
Yeah.
So
yeah, it is very interesting. There's a lot of different dichotomies in this book between religion and science, between Wiley City and Ashtown, between the different Earths that we go to. There's a lot. There's a lot of symbolism. But going forward, because we are introduced to the Eldridge Institute, they discovered the multiverse and how to traverse it. To be able to traverse the multiverse, you have to be dead in that world you're trying to travel to. Otherwise, the trip will kill you. And they go into more of like the scientific reason of what happens and like all the protocol and everything. But if you could traverse to other universes in the multiverse, but you knew that the only reason was because you were dead there, like how would that make you feel?
Kind of shitty, honestly. Like I don't want to know my other self. Like it's more of a butterfly effect type of feeling of like, oh, I died here. Why? Now her situation is terrible.
Yeah, it's like 300 and something of her that are
her
dead.
situation is terrible, and like, and every reason behind it would just like, oh god, just stop. Stop. It gets worse and worse.
Yeah.
Like a 3-month-old, her last breath on her mother's chest is like, oh god, why'd you have to go there? But that's good writing. But yeah, I honestly like I wouldn't want to know because like the butterfly effect. Oh, what if I would have made this decision in my life differently, or like when she.
And that's what the multiverse is. It's choices. What choice did you make? And we'll get even more into that when she's traversing different Earths. Right. She's like, if I would have done this, then this would have happened, so on and so forth. For the setting of this fictional futuristic universe, we have 2 cities, Wiley City and Ashtown, and we learn about their history. Ashtown is made up of all kinds of refugees. Those fleeing religious persecution came with a little money and a lot of faith and settled on the edge where the sand was more white than gray. They call this more the rurals of Ashtown. 100 years after that, those who fled from poverty and drought followed rumors of water and work, building the city that they would not be allowed to live in. That's Wiley City. The builders' descendants became factory workers until the factory was no more. Now the factory workers' children work for Eldridge Industrial Hatch, transferring materials from one world they'll never see to another. Wiley City broke its promise to those workers who built the city, and that is how Ashtown was created. Carr describes Wileyites as loving and nurturing and socialized, but only within its own borders, to its own people. Those refugees who Wiley City left outside their borders were trying to escape war, but war raged on outside the city walls until Nick Sr. stopped it. When the dust settled, the new emperor was on top. Challengers dead or exiled. So that's kind of the history that we learn very quickly in the very beginning of the book of these 2 cities. And we also learn that this is probably the case of a lot of other cities and surrounding areas, because it seems like it's in the future, ozone layer probably not so good. It's hot outside. They have domed cities for with walls around them to kind of protect people and the people outside. They're a little darker. They're a little bit more sun. They got to stay inside on really hot days because otherwise they will be like vaporized by the sun, basically. So you kind of have a city that seems like a utopia, but it became a utopia off the backs of other people, and then they left those people outside its borders to suffer. So what did you feel about learning this history of these 2 cities?
Tell me if you've heard this saying before. It was the best of times, it was the worst of times. Because this whole excerpt was like, wow, she read Charles Dickens and goes, let me make it multiverse. Nothing against her. It's a trope that's been done over, and I love every spin of it. Charles Dickens just happened to be the one that people glorify about the class system. In A Tale of Two Cities. That being said, it also reminded me of how corrupt Cater is, and the fact that this is exactly what they did to their workers.
Yep.
And as far as putting in a real world perspective for the World Cup people out there, that's exactly what the Cater did.
Qatar.
Qatar. It's catering Qatar. I am not mispronouncing it. That's how it's pronounced. And if you watch one station, it's pronounced Qatar. If you watch another place,
or Qatar.
Like I'm not mispronouncing it. It's pronounced 3 different ways.
Yeah.
But that when I read that, I was like, oh, it's like when they did it's why people were saying the FIFA is corrupt because of it going there.
Well, it's corrupt for a lot of more reasons.
Other more
the Qatar
reasons,
World Cup.
But the Qatar World Cup, they look it up. They try to deny the press a lot of how the living conditions were for the workers that built those unorthodox soccer stadiums.
Yeah. Yeah, it's definitely speaks a lot, and that's a great real world example. You can even bring it to like the United States if you think about like a lot of things were built on the backs of slaves, and then
I can give you one better. The Hoover Dam. Mm-hmm. That was during the Great Depression, so there was no work. Now the Hoover Dam is engineering just anomaly, by the way. If everyone's ever went and visited, it's amazing. Like I went there with a couple of my buddies who was a civil engineer and electrical engineer. So basically I was like, all right, guys, tell me. And they're like, I read, this is how I learned because of what they did here. Like that's how much of of craziness that it was. Like Edison and Tesla were involved with this stuff to build that. But at the end of the day, people died making that because they had no other choice.
Yeah. Well, think Panama Canal as well. With that, you can think Empire State Building as well. But yeah, there's kind of, you see the systematic struggle and the classism between Wiley City and Ashtown very quickly in this book.
Which is why that Charles Dickens' Tale of Two Cities still resonates with us to this day.
Yep. And then we have our main character, Kara. Or Kara, yeah. Now you're having me say it different ways. Look at what you did, Josh. Who's a traverser and collects data from other worlds to bring back to the Eldridge Institute. Since you have to be dead in the worlds you're wanting to travel to, the best candidates to traverse the multiverse are poor Black and brown people who come from the encampments outside the walled cities. Kara is initially from Ashtown, but we learn very quickly that she is from Ashtown on Earth 22. 6 years prior to the story, on Kara Menta's, Earth Zero's Kara's first day of traversing, she went to Earth 22. It ended up that the Kara there was alive. She immediately dies. Earth 22 Kara Lee, takes over her body, like takes over her like life. Like sees her dead body, basically picks all her stuff and goes to Earth Zero. So how did you feel about this reveal that the Kara that we know is actually someone from another Earth, not Earth Zero?
This was the reveal. I was like, all right, you got me. Let's go. Let's see where this goes. And then it kind of didn't go anywhere. But it didn't go to the place that
later. Yeah.
It still went. It went. But it didn't go to the conclusion I was thinking. But this was the first reveal. I was like, oh, because not only did it reveal that because she talked about her other selves, right? And her upbringing. We're going to get to that because I saw your notes, so I don't want to spoil that. But this was the first reveal. I was like, all right, Micaiah, you got me. Because I was not expecting that. At no point, not even M. Night Shyamalan could have written a better twist than that.
Yeah. As a traverser, Kara collects data from other worlds, and it's kind of funny the way she talks about it, how you have the light data, which is like population, temperature, fluctuation, general needs, and this institute is mostly government funded, and that's probably the information that the government would like to know. But then they also have more secretive, dark data that they probably are not sharing with the government.
Oh my God.
What? A company being corrupt? Who knew? And it's basically just insider trading, but Kara's like, I don't care. That's rich people shit to worry about.
Yeah.
Like, so what did you think of like her demeanor of like, I don't care if they're breaking the law. I get a paycheck.
Yeah. So before I go into that, what's up, Toshka? And in the space between worlds, it's time you eat an edible before it kicks in because that's where I'm at. Kind of, but this was the reveal of her just being content with where she's at, which is a lot of people. It's typically a protagonist that people are not used to. You're typically a people of like, oh, I don't know where I belong, which she didn't, but then she did figure it out because she took over her other self.
I need to be a hero. And
but just like that's this is her. Wrong. Let's go against just your typical Luke Skywalker. Those type of you've been destined for this. This is your prophecy and all this other shit. No, she's just like, yeah, I'm a traverser. The fact that, and she realizes that like I'm expendable, but also they need me because I am died in so many other planets. They need me because I am that much higher up.
I'm the most valuable asset they have.
She's the most valuable, so she understands like her place, and she's not.
And if you keep paying me, I'm good.
Right, because that's what she talks about too. She goes, if you don't, like, you lose your visa and you go back to Ashtown. And so again, she's a space between her family and living the life that she's content with.
Yeah.
And that was another thing of like, I was like, all right, just salute you, Micaiah, because you didn't just give us the typical, this world sucks and the Fortune 500 company is evil, which it is, because every Fortune 5 company in a sense is, and nobody's perfect, but it's not like she just thinks that her life is terrible.
It's kind of a reluctant hero is what this character is. It's very much like, I guess I have to do the right thing. What?
Yeah, there's characters out there like that all the time. Yeah. Just like, all right, fine, I guess.
Yeah. We also meet some other people that work at the Eldridge Institute. You have Del, Kara's watcher, who is the one who helps traverse her and it pulls her between the different Earths. And Kara, she has a crush on her. You also have Jean, a former traverser from the Ivory Coast who got promoted and wants Kara to follow in his footsteps. He's also the one who told Kara about Niami, which is, again, bringing religion into it. You have the scientists that work for Eldridge Institute. It's like, you're hallucinating when you traverse. And then you have other of the traversers that are like, oh, that's Niami touching you as you go between each world. And then you also briefly meet Starla Saeed. This is such a quick character, but it's
I was hoping for more because it's such a pivotal thing.
But it's an important moment, and it comes back later, even though she is no longer a character. She is only a character for this very short moment. But Starla Saeed, a traverser who just got laid off, she was the only one who had access to Earth 175. But one of Kara's doppelgangers was reported to have died on that Earth, and now so now Kara has access to it. So there's no need to have Starla be it's doubling the work, paying for another person to do the work that you can, paying two people to do the job of one, basically. And so she immediately gets deported because in this world, if you lose your job, it's immediate deportation. And so what did you think of just like the very quick meeting of Starla Saeed and learning about how the immigration rules work in the city?
I mean, it's your typical, it's a company thing. It just so happens that the company also manipulates how they govern, which, post-apocalyptic, it's very basic. So it's much more not oligarchy, but monarchy in a sense. Obviously there's literally an emperor. So it's very monarch. So it's just basically of like, all right, you're disposable, go here, and she talks about like, oh, they set this like social thing to like we could still be able for you to live, but you're exposable at the same time. Yeah. So, cause she talked about like, they go down there and where the retirees live. Well, it's still shit, but you're still
and that part is like, here are all the social programs that exist if you are a citizen of Wiley City, that is not available to residents, which her and Starla are. You have to be a resident for 10 years to become a citizen. And I don't know how long Starla was there. I forget. But Kara is on her 6th year. She has 4 more years left to go before she can apply for citizenship. And so you kind of have this, like, here are all the social programs that this city does to make sure people don't fall on their asses, and that actually, like, takes care of their citizens. But it's only for citizens.
Right.
And it does not, and it completely excludes the residents, and it definitely excludes anyone from Ashtown, which is outside its borders. So they treat their own very well, and everyone else they treat like shit.
Yeah. And also too, it's like, hey, if you want to be here, you have to earn it. Which, not saying it's a social it's not saying that it's not something that is going on today. But but it still is. That was very, you have to, hey, if you want to do this, you have to put in the work, or you can go back to Ashtown. Well, again,
you
have
to go through these hoops to
you have to jump through the hoops to do that. So, but at the end of the day, they don't have the power, and it's your typical governing type of thing, and someone just happens to get there. I don't want to jump forward of how those people got there, but guess what? They're not ethical. No one ever is morally or ethical. And neither is Kara, by the way. She's not.
But it's this company using, I don't want to put it in like the words like this, but using people that are not well off at all, and then putting them in a, hey, we're going to dangle this fruit in front of you, and then we're going to rip it away. Like, kind of. So it was one of those, just like,
the line in the book where she was like, I can't afford to get hurt, or I'm going to go back. And the thing is, well, I'm not gonna jump to that point. I'm gonna let you do your thing, because I was getting ready to jump to, she's not supposed to be there. So
well, we'll get to the next part. We also meet Earth Zero's Kara's family, who live in the rural area of Ashtown, known as the Rurals. Her mother used to be a prostitute, basically, before she married a pastor. Her stepfather, Daniel, preaches from a variety of religions. You get a little bit like Christianity, Islam, Hinduism, etc.
The whole gamut.
The whole gambit. Her stepsister, Esther, also gives sermons at their place of worship. Later on, I'm just going to call it a church, but I don't know what you would really call it, because it's all of the religions. So I guess you could also call it a mosque, synagogue, all the things.
It's a Templeagog. I don't know.
Templeagog, yeah. She kind of, Esther favors less organized religions. We learned that about Esther. She also has a twin brother, Michael. We also learned that Kara's family doesn't like the company that she works for or her job, and she describes their dislike as people who don't believe in taking up more space, air, or attention than strictly necessary, are unsurprisingly opposed to claiming whole new worlds. They see it as a new colonialism, and she goes, and they're not wrong. But she still does it anyways, but she's like, I know they're not wrong, but it's my job. So what did you think of Kara's family?
On this world.
Yes, on this world specifically.
I realized why she stayed, basically, is because she didn't get that in the other worlds. And as we learned about her family on the other worlds, her mom sucked. She was neglected on all the other worlds. Not on this one, though. It was a stable family who are all loving and caring. And it's just something that everyone who's an orphan, what she felt like. What I got.
It's a step family, but they never treat each other as, like, Daniel is her father, Esther is her sister, Michael is her brother. Right. They never really treat each other as step.
No. Yeah. And Esther is awesome.
Yes.
She's she's the baddest bitch out there. She takes no shit. And if you try to talk her down from a fight, she gonna punch you in the face so you can get back into the brawl. Like I love this Esther character.
Yeah, on all of the worlds.
On all the worlds, Esther was there was 2 characters. We'll get to the other character here a little bit later on, but Esther is one of my top 2 favorite characters in this book.
And then
Kara's not my favorite character, just so you know. She's not in the
top. Before Kara ever goes to Earth 175, the latest Earth where she has died, we see Kara either go to other Earths or speak about other Earths. Her favorite doppelganger is from Earth 225. She talks about this one as she's always climbed to like save herself from the fates of the runners. And this version of Kara probably wasn't a good climber, so she walked to the edge of the city, and that got picked up and adopted by a wily family. And she even says, like, if my mother had any rights, it would have been considered abduction, but because she doesn't, they just call it adoption. But that Kara is the only one of her doppelgangers that grew up in Wily City. Then we also learned that she had a fling with the Dell on Earth 261. And then we learned that the Dell on Earth 319, it's the only Dell that lives in Ashtown. She doesn't know what happened to her or how she ended up in Ashtown, because Dell comes from a family with money that comes from like old Japan. That now I don't even know if Japan exists anymore in this world, but the money still exists.
There's not just old money. It's like ancient money.
It's ancient money. So how did you like learning about some of the different Earths?
It was cool because, like I said, like it's that whole like butterfly effect of like not everything is the same. It's the same thing when we watch like with comics and stuff when they go to different Earths. I mean, DC did it with the Crisis on Infinite Earths. Not everything is the same. The characters all exist, but they're all different, and their personalities are still centrically the same. But because of what has gone on in their lives, their personalities are different. Have branched out in different ways.
This definitely does give a little bit to the argument of nature versus nurture too.
Yeah. Because we'll learn about the actual care of this universe. But yeah, like
she might be my least favorite. We never even.
I don't know. Kara's mom on multiple Earths sucked.
True. A little spoiler for later, but if you've read the book already, you know.
Let me ask you this though. I will ask you this. I know you've been asking me questions, so I'm going to ask you this.
Okay.
If you were to explain, because I'm still trying to figure out exactly how to describe them, how would you describe runners in a modern way?
Gang.
Okay, that's what I depicted it as.
Yeah.
But I'm thinking them as like, gypsy gang.
Yeah.
Like they go from town to town and shit.
I would call them that the closest thing that they are a gang, because they have gang tattoos. They run in packs. They view each other as family. The difference is that it's only one gang and they work for the Emperor.
Right.
Of Ashtown.
That's what I'm saying. Like they're not the police, but they're not.
Yeah, they're not the police. It is like as if there's like a military dictatorship, but the military is run by a gang.
Okay. That's what that you see my confusion there is because they work for the Emperor, so gang is typically does their own thing.
Yeah, but it is definitely gang culture coded.
Okay.
Because you can tell with the bandanas, with the tattoos. The tattoos are symbols for things like this certain tattoo means this, and where it's placed on you. It's so it is very gang coded.
Okay, that was. You see why like I asked that question because they're much more intricate than just a typical like Crips and Bloods.
Yeah, and Tushka, gang violence, we out here.
Yeah.
But that is part 1. We go into part 2, and the science versus religion part here is when the bodies of the first traversers were recalled, there was shock at the thoroughness of devastation, twisted in and out, glistening with fresh blood and something else. The scientist said, we did not test it enough. We should have expected a backlash. And the spiritual said, we did not petition enough. We should have expected a sacrifice. So I'm going to read out all of the very beginnings of each part, because that is where we are now in the story of science versus religion. But at the very end of part 1, very beginning of part 2, Kara is traversing to Earth 175, and we quickly learn that the Eldritch Institution was wrong, not just about Earth 22, but about Earth 175. Kara's doppelganger, Naylene, she's alive.
Yeah.
And Kara, her body gets mangled brutally, and it's kind of one of those that she gets found and she doesn't follow the protocol, which would have immediately killed her, being pulled back. So by not following protocol and then being found and then getting immediate medical attention, she survives this, but otherwise she would have died. Though it's pretty gruesome the way they described like how mangled her body gets. So how did you feel about just like that reveal of like, oh shit, we just learned that if they're alive you die, and then you get to actually hear what's going on with her body?
Yeah, that, and then her original confrontation with Nick. I was like, all right, Micaiah, damn, you're very good at depicting shit. Because damn, the fact and then we haven't got to reveal yet, right? I don't want to jump ahead. The big reveal with Kara and the Earth that she's actually on and all the 6 years.
Yeah, we know that she's from Earth 22.
And the fact that when she got to Earth 22 and she found her body and she was like, fuck it, I'm just going to take your shit and take over your life. So I think it's a little bit of a karma, honestly.
A little bit, but
there's a reason. Here's the spiritual part. There's a reason she survived. And
that's what her sister tells her, which we'll get to that later. But Kara goes in and out a little bit, but we learned she was picked up by Earth's 175 Nick. And we've learned a little bit about Nick in part 1, so you're just like, oh no, it gets worse. But luckily, Nick 175 is a much better person than the Nicks on every other Earth.
Which this is my second favorite character of the book. It's Esther and Nick 175. Not Nick across the universes, just Nick 175.
Yes. And he asked why his name is tattooed on her back. And we also get the flashback of how she got that tattoo, the why, and kind of a little bit of her toxic relationship with Nick on Earth 22. So how did you feel about this reveal of her being saved by Nick?
This wasn't the biggest, the more of her just being, because it just like, yeah, here's my mother, here's my stepdad, here's my stepsister, Michael, all that. Yeah, okay, cool. And then Dell and Jean, and okay, cool. And then they go, by the way, this isn't my Earth. I just took over myself because I heard Dell's voice. And so I just went, and I've never been to Wiley City, so I'm just going to go there. I was like, shit. That was when I was like, all right.
And I wanted to escape this toxic relationship from this person that just beat me within an inch of my life.
Right. I want to escape that. And then it's like, oh, fuck, Nick. And then Nick's like, hey, I got you. Don't worry about it. We're like, hold on. What underlying, what are you doing here? It's like, nah. Nick, and then we find out obviously more. So at that point, I was like, oh, she's fucked. And I was like, hold on, you wouldn't be rescued by Nick if this was the same Nick.
That it's just like, why would he? And we know a little bit. Like she said, he would always harm me, and then he would then he would like punch me or cut me, and then he would take care of me after doing it as if he never harmed me. If he wasn't the one who did the harm.
It was it's the cat playing with her food.
Yeah. So I was just like, so originally I was like, oh, is this Nick like that, where like he cares about her wants her to be okay, but also has anger issues and will beat the shit out of her. So we don't know that yet, but we find out that this is a different Nick.
Yeah.
He's a better Nick.
Yeah.
Nickelodeon.
Yeah.
So Earth 175 is different from most of the other Earths in the multiverse that they have access to. Nick is not the Emperor of Ashtown. In this world, his older brother Adrenic is. On most worlds, Nick Sr. kills his oldest son for being sickly and weak and ill-fit heir when Nick was 6 years old, leading to Nick later becoming Emperor. On Earth 22 and like pretty much all of the other Earths. Kara getting into a relationship with him to like kind of get her in a better station and not have to deal with what was left with her terrible mom and all that other crap. Right. But on Earth 175, Adrenic was the victor in the altercation with Nick Sr., leading to Nick Sr. dying when Nick was 6 instead of Adrenic becoming Emperor, and then Naylene, which is the Kara from 175, that's her doppelganger. She basically did the same thing, but just with Adrenic. So she's was in a relationship with Adrenic. She was also pregnant, got beaten within an inch of her life, miscarried the baby, all that. So it's like her and Kara Lee are very similar, just ending up with different emperors. So how did you feel about kind of learning about the differences of Earth 175 being very different from most of the other Earths?
This was that butterfly effect that I was expecting. This wasn't technically nature versus nurture because of every Nick that we've known. Adrenic didn't exist because the dad killed him, and then Nick got taught the ways of the father. There's where the nature and nurture situation comes in. But because of the butterfly effect of Adrenic actually surviving and then the dad dying, he took over being the nature nurture situation, and Nick was just there looking back and being like, this doesn't seem right, this doesn't compute, much less he wasn't the power wasn't forced upon him, he was just there to observe.
And we'll get into it, but it also is like a decision of choices that before Nick Sr. kills his firstborn son, he had his boys fight each other, and Nick would hurt his older brother on the other worlds. And this one, even though he was the better fighter, the one who would go hunting with his father, just like all the other Earths, this Nick said, I don't want to do this to humans the way been taught to treat animals.
Right.
So he made the choice not to hurt his brother. So it is too like because I think a choice can make you then become where you see this. I just watched the last Invincible episode, and you see all of the evil marks, and so it really does come down to a choice sometimes.
Yeah. So like that's why I said like the reason I liked Esther is because she's a badass. But also I like the Nick character because you get the dichotomy of you don't always have to be bad. You don't always have to go the way with the nature that you're. Or it's not. There was no nurturing involved with this relationship with his father, or his brother, which in all the other universes, his brother was dead. But there was. But he at least had the choice in this world because Adrenic existed.
Yeah. And you see a little bit too of just Adrenic, even though he was the softer child, he is the worst emperor. He's the more bloodier emperor between the two brothers because Nick
what's the Joffrey, and then who's the other brother?
And Tomlin. But to finish what I was saying there is that Nick never had to prove himself. He was always someone who was strong and a fighter and a hunter. So he never had to prove himself worthy of being an emperor, whereas Adrenic had to prove himself. And so he became worse than his father and worse than his brother.
Yeah, Nick in 175 was like Godfather Part 1 Michael Corleone. And then he slowly became Nick Sr. But that's kind of how I looked at Nick 175 is like he's in this family and he tries, but he's like, I don't really want to do this. And he got forced into it. Whereas this Nick, he had the ability because his brother existed that he could kind of figure it out. And
But I'm even saying like the Nick from the other universe, he was a kinder emperor than the Adrenic of this one.
No. Oh, okay. I can see what you're saying.
Yeah.
I'm always like trying to connect it with other mediums.
I'm not talking about the same Earths. I'm saying that like Nick of all the different Earths is a better emperor and a less cruel emperor. Even though he is cruel, he is a less cruel emperor than Adrenic is on 175.
Okay.
Because Adrenic had to prove himself where Nick never did.
Gotcha.
Yeah. But we get now here in the story, Kara ends up getting caught by Adrenic's runners, and we get a big reveal. Adrenic is Adam Bosch, the creator of the Eldridge Institute. Adam Bosch is Adrenic from Earth Zero. We never find out how he survived, which that's one thing I will be like, why were we never given that from the book? But how do you feel about this reveal that the person who is basically her boss is the older brother of her ex-lover?
This is some like Days of Our Lives meets BioShock, the game. If anyone ever played BioShock, there's a lot of these type of twists of the crazy ass world that you live in where like really and truly the guy that's the head of it isn't really the head of it, or he is, and it's just like there's some it's a lot of M. Night Shyamalan going on here. So like when I saw that I was like, of course he'd be the guy and he just take over something and like, well, how did he get here? It's like, you know, hot tub time machine when he goes back in time and knows how to invent Google, you know, if or something like that. Like, but they never explain like how he was able to figure it out. Because
I don't even care about learning how he discovered the multiverse. What I care about is how did he survive the fight with his father?
Yeah, I don't get that either.
Because we never get that reveal. Maybe we need to ask the author. Be like,
all right, I'm gonna just put it out there. Hey, I'm in Nashville. Can you explain this?
Can you explain this one piece, please, for me? But Kara gets sent to a cell, and who saves her? None other than her doppelganger, like Naylene.
Mm-hmm.
But then Naylene quickly poisons her to try to sell her to one of the runners for some cash, which that was funny. But instead of waking up being captured again, she wakes up in Daniel's church in the Rurals. Unlike on Earth Zero, Daniel didn't marry her mom on Earth 175, so they have no familial relationship. And then we get the reveal of Esther here. The Esther from this world walks into the church. She's in very expensive clothing, and her nose is broken. She is married to the Emperor. So Naylene is the side chick to the Emperor, and no one knows that they're together. It's like a bad kept secret, basically.
Right.
But he has a wife, whereas what we understand of Nick and Earth 22's Kara is that they were together and everyone knew, and he let people know that this is my love. Right. I also beat her, but she is mine, kind of thing. So there's the hidden versus the not hidden, but that is the difference between like these two relationships. And we also learned that the runner who brought her to the church is Mr. Cheeks, which I like his character throughout the different Earths too.
It's just a weird ass name for me.
But the runners all get a Mr. Something. Even the women are Mr. Something. And he brought her to the church instead of to Adrenic because he's a runner with a code, and he's decided to be in cahoots with Nick, and they're wanting Kara to help them basically start a coup.
Yeah.
So thoughts of her waking up in the church and it's coup time.
Yeah. So I'm always going to relate things to other medias. If you're not noticed, if everyone out there, I have just so in Final Fantasy VII. Yes, I'm going there. Cloud, the main character, falls off of a building and lands in a church and becomes unconscious. He gets woken up by the other person, who I am Ariel. Anyway, he gets woken up by another character, a big pivotal character in that story, and that's what immediately where I got brought back to, of him falling, waking up in this church unconscious, and realizing of who is there to care for him, but also realizing what's the situation, what's going on. And then also Mr. Cheeks kind of reminds me of like Iroh from The Last Airbender, because like he has a code even though he's a douchebag. Like he's fighting for the bad guys, but everyone loves Iroh. Is it Iroh or Iroh?
Iroh.
Iroh. And like that's he just like, again, I always like try to relate it to like other characters that I've, not to say that McKay is like she's just like taking from other things, but that's just how I am.
Characters, they say that like there is no original story, everything comes from something else. But yeah, and relating things to other characters, I don't ever think that's a bad thing.
Yeah, because that's it. Mr. Cheeks was like, oh my gosh, I was like, oh yeah, he's a runner, this guy sucks. And then he was like, he has like a heart, but he's also still
and he's funny.
And he's funny. But he's also loyal to the runners, which Iroh was always still loyal to the Fire Nation.
Until he wasn't.
You know, the White Lotus and all the other stuff. But that's not the story that we're talking about here.
Before the coup meeting, Kara and Nick, they make a few stops. This is like Aaron time, that we get a little montage of montage. Montage. They end up going to one of the ports to download Earth's information, so Kara can use the skills Jean taught her to do a little bit of analytics and analyze the differences between Earth 175 and the other Earths. Then they also pick up Naylene. They then stop at they also stop at a safe house. They also stop at the house, which is basically the brothel of this world, because you can't get anything done without the prostitutes on your side in Ashtown. So thoughts of this like montage?
Again, going back to Final Fantasy VII, this is kind of what happened. Because he gets discovered, he goes into the slums, meets all the other characters, and you think there's going to be an uprising with Kara and Nick and Mr. Cheeks and like all these people who are on different separate lives, but all have a core like, you know, sensibility about each other and like relatable about each other. But Kara, and same thing with Cloud, like Cloud was just, he wasn't like a Mr. Go-Getter or anything. He was just like, yeah, I'm just here. Like, just everyone get away from me. And that's kind of how Kara was. She was just kind of, she had the toxic relationship with Nick. She's in love with Dell, like all these other social things, but it was a very close-knit circle. But they're in the slums and they're going against an evil corporation. It's kind of what Final Fantasy VII was at the beginning of it. I'm sorry. That's just exactly where my mind went to.
I get it.
But that being said, I at this point, I'm like, all right, you got me, Micaiah. I'm fully in. Take me on this ride.
Take me on this journey.
Also, I'm the whole time during this book, I'm like, who would play Esther? Because the whole time, I'm like, she's such a badass. Who would play Esther? And like, part of me was like, Taraji P. Henson, maybe. Like, but I think she's a little older because Esther is a little bit younger.
Yeah, Esther is, you would have to find someone that is like in their early 20s at the oldest. Like, she's young.
Like, is it not Kiki Palmer? Anyway, go ahead.
But while you're thinking there, one fact that I like that we got is that we learned that Kara has never died on the Earths that she stays in the house. Because like that is the safest place to stay in Ashtown, and the time in we learn even too that like she stayed in the house. She's never forced to be a prostitute ever. She's like they let her stay in the house because they just care for her. And that the Earths that she never leaves the house because she grew up there partially, she survives. So it kind of puts in the sense of like you got the Earth Zero where she has a family. This is a less conventional family, but still people who care for her. That when she has those people that actually are there for her, she survives.
Yeah. So, and also Ryan said this is about happens. It's probably about Nick and his brother. So,
Yeah. When Kara analyzes the difference between Earth 175 and other Earths, she learns that Ashtown in Earth 175 has a higher death rate and shorter life expectancy than 90% of the worlds where Nick rules. They also export fewer goods to Wiley City and import more. They are operating at a staggering deficit. And then like she learns a few other things, and that kind of cements, because she's been fighting over, should I help this Nick overrule Adrenic? Will he become just as bad as the Nicks of the other world? And then she learns even if he is just as bad, it's still better than what they have here. So that's what cements her in deciding to help and join the Q and kind of go forward. So they have the coup meeting, but the coup meeting gets interrupted.
Like every coup meeting does at this point.
Like every coup meeting does. And
there's a mole.
Adrenic finds out about it, and the runners come through, and it's kind of very destructive. So before we get to like the ending of kind of this part and what she decides and how she saves this world, what did you think about like the coup meeting and it being interrupted?
The interruption, like literally in Transformers 1, they had to like, oh yeah, then they were like, had to like, oh, here's our thing, and then someone portrays them. It's Judas 101, you know.
But we never learn really who
we never know who does. They just know it. That's the only thing. It's like that's the one thing too, is like there had to have been someone. Like you can't go through all that and like at first I was like, oh, is it Nick? Is it Nylene? Or is it like, you know, is it Esther? Like there was so because it was a tight knit group. So you figured someone had to, even in, damn it, I keep saying it again, drink every time I say Final Fantasy VII. There was a person who portrayed the group in Final Fantasy VII. It's a video game, but there's a reason people talk about it till this day, and it came out like 1998. But, I think 1997. Anyway, but how the fact that they never told, and just like, oh yeah, that we just knew it. Like, they didn't, the world building in 175, like, if the brother, how do you pronounce his name again?
Adrenic,
because I want to say Androgenic, because in the game I'm playing it's literally is the same type of character. Adrenic, he's incompetent as a leader.
He is.
Like Nick is ruthless, but he's at least competent as a leader in the other world. Yeah. There's no way he's that incompetent and still knowing the coup is happening. It just didn't make sense to me.
Well, part of me, like, I can see him being incompetent, but he's still very smart because he's smart enough to create the multiverse.
Yeah, but he's maybe he's smart in his paranoia. Maybe that's it.
Yeah,
but
and we kind of learned that his paranoia too was not paranoia. He actually was. We'll get to that. We'll get
to that. But that's I'm just like at this point of the book, I'm like, did someone call him out? Like, where was the mole? And there was just no. They just showed up and just fucked shit up.
Yeah, burned shit, had the cars and the motorcycles run over people. It's pretty violent. To end everything and save Nick and everyone else, Kara uses what she knows about Adam Bosch, Earth Zero's Adrenic, to convince him to traverse with her, knowing he will die in the process. Kara calls up Del and says that her collar is broken and she needs a proximity pool. And Del tells her she will give her a 3-foot radius and that she will be pulled in 2 minutes. In those 2 minutes, Kara makes Nick promise because we learn in this world that Adrenik has reinvented the gun because the gun has not existed for a very long time. So she makes Nick promise that he will melt all the guns and get rid of them. And he agrees, although we'll get to that later. And then he says goodbye, and she goes, I haven't heard him say my name in so long that it uncoils me a little, and I'm not mad he read my journals anymore. The Nick I knew before had a hold on me. Maybe I've never noticed until coming here, but my fear and ambition are both rooted in my time with him. I left, but never really stopped carrying him at my back. Knowing this Nick has freed me. I always thought I'd have to kill him to feel free, but hearing him say my name kindly is the balm that I thought only seeing his blood would be. Maybe it just takes this, glimpsing him as a different person who is whole and undamaged and who would never have hurt me. My Nick was not a supernatural monster, not an inescapable God. He was just a flawed person who could and should have been better. Just a potable boy who cut his brother once and became so lost he could never find his way back. Seeing this version is like seeing a wish I never thought to make for him come true. It would never have been possible for me to forgive myself for staying with him so long, but it seems possible now. So, like, thoughts on Car kind of like forgiving herself and for her relationship with Nick.
So this was a big moment in the book because her whole life, was just hating Nick, and her whole part of like she was so shelled off because all she cared about, she was so just Nick is the worst. I'm gonna kill him, Nick. She literally tattooed it just on her body because of how much pain. Literal pain, not just mental pain or anything like that, but like literal pain on top of it, physical pain that he caused her in these other worlds, to where as long as she kills him, then her life's gonna be better, which we've known in multiple types of media. Once you kill that person that you wanted to kill, it doesn't leave you.
Yeah.
And this was the first time that I've seen sometimes where your adversary, your nemesis, the person that's caused you the most pain in your life that you can ever think of, is kind to you for the first time, which is also kind of toxic in a way if you think about it.
Yeah.
But at least for the first time, it's not through her killing him. It's that her adversary, like, wait, I didn't realize you could be kind to me.
Yeah.
Because all she saw was hate.
And she learned that there is a version of him, that there is kindness in his heart, and even though it does not exist in her Nick or Earth Zero's Nick, now that it is a possibility. And so she's like, she forgives herself for her relationship and seeing a good part of him, I guess. Because sometimes, like, we see the good and bad people, and it exists.
Well, you have
a challenge.
Yeah, and plus, a good antagonist is someone you can relate to. You might disagree with them wholeheartedly, but you understand the motives. And in Nick's other worlds, you understood his motives, even though he was a despicable character.
And you blame his father and his upbringing.
Yeah. Like, you understand why the antagonist. That's why, like, antagonists that we don't like in literature, movies, media, and all that, we don't like as people. I want to take over the world. Why? Because I want to. Like, you suck. Like, that type of character is just terrible. If you can understand the antagonist and why they are doing it and the motivation behind it, then you can really get behind why their motivation, and like, okay, I understand it. I totally think you should not be involved. You should be, you suck and I hate you, but you at least understand why. And that's a layer that's very hard to do for an antagonist, because you're just like, this guy's evil. Why is he evil? Because he's evil. It's like, there's some humanity to all the Nicks across the universes. It's not a lot, but there is that small little bit. Exists. But this is the biggest, and this is why Nick is my favorite character in this book, is because he has that small amount of humanity, and all across the universes, this one just happens to have the most humanity of all the Nick Nicks.
Because his father died when he was 6, so he didn't
And-
learn the cruelty from his dad.
And I'm going to bring it back to another media. The whole Nick 175 and Kara, the main Kara, this is Arya and the Hound type of scenario where she hates the Hound in that whole thing, but they become one because, or not become one, but they become partners in the whole thing because he shows that little bit of gratitude. He still calls her a cunt the whole time during the show, but they at least have this weird level of respect, and he shows her enough sympathy and gratitude to where she doesn't just kill him, even though she wants to kill him. And that's where I got from this Nick 175 and Kara's relationship.
And I think we're going to get to it later, but if he makes an offer to her later to stay, and I think if she wasn't in love with Del, she might have.
Freaking Del.
I know. But the ending of this, so the 2 minutes are up. She goes, her and Adrenic. She knows Adrenic is going to be destroyed because Adam Bosch exists on Earth Zero. Freaking Naileen. She saw her one-way ticket and she jumps into the circle and she dies as well. Adrenic gets left in 175. Naileen travels with her and dies on Earth Zero. So before going to part 3, just any thoughts on that?
Freaking Naileen. Come on.
She's the worst of the cars.
She's the worst.
Although we never meet the first car.
Well,
the first car is a bigot.
The first, the bigot sucked because that's the reason we'll get into it. Why that's why Esther and Nick.
Yeah.
That's why I keep going back to it. But that's the reason, because Esther knew, like, this isn't the same sister I had.
Yeah. But anyways, so part 3, we again with the religion versus science, continuing with this motif. When the recruitment campaign began, we learned Eldridge needed a very select group of people, those who lived with enough risk to have died over and over and over again, but had somehow survived here. And the scientist said, interstellar travel has always belonged to the few. Of course, the people we seek are a paradox. And the spiritual said, heaven has always belonged to the few. Of course, the people we seek are a miracle. So just keep that in your brain. The plot really picks up in part 3. This is like the fast-moving part. So we're back on Earth Zero. Esther comes and visits Kara with a Wiley City day pass and lets Kara know that powder for explosives is missing from the Royals inventory. Both Kara and Esther think the runners are stealing it, and Kara warns Esther to ignore it. The next day, someone has left Kara a paper note outside her apartment door that says, I know what happened on Earth 175, with a meeting place and time. We then have Kara debriefing on what happened on Earth 175 with 2 investigators and HR rep Del, Jean, and her therapist Sasha in attendance. In the debriefing, we learned that Kara's collar disappeared from their inventory, and Del lies to the investigators, saying that Kara's collar was crushed and that the cleaners must have seen it and assumed it was a piece of damaged tech to be recycled. So, how did you feel about the opening to part 3, the debriefing, and then the first sprinkling of like, okay, Del, what are you doing?
Freaking Del. Like, we would be chilling out on Earth 175 with more moral compass Nick and Esther. And just
that's your ship. That's your ship.
Yeah.
is Kara Lee and Nick.
I know she don't swing that way, but 175.
No, I think she swings both ways.
Okay, I didn't want to jump to conclusions, but the whole thing, the overlapping thing, is her love for Del. But just that's my ship, is 175 Nick and Kara Lee. Like that is like the whole thing. I'm like, we'd be good, but there wouldn't be a story without conflict. And the conflict, this whole freaking story, is not Adam Bosch. It's fucking Del and Kara Lee. Because they can't get away from each other. And we understand why Del's motives of why this is Ross and Rachel, and it just annoys me.
I think it's better than Ross and Rachel because that is so much more toxic. Ross and Rachel,
bad.
But I see this one more as like a complete misunderstanding trope of just. But I understand from Dell's perspective when we get
no,
there.
I understand. Like I get it. It just frustrates.
And I understand Kara's too, and we'll get to it. Like, and Kara's like, "Oh, I realizing, oh shit, it's me who's can't see past class." So like she checks herself. But anyways, the day after the debriefing is Naileen's burial, which Kara originally was going to do by herself. Dell arrives at her apartment with Esther, who is on a day pass, but this time from Naileen. Not this time from Dell.
It took me a while for the day pass situation. Then I finally understood it. What they were talking about.
And they don't take no for an answer in helping Kara with the burial. They run into Mr. Cheeks at the border. Earth Zero's Mr. Cheeks. And Kara pays him to escort them into the deep waste and then to the bogs. When Kara opens the thing Naileen is in, Kara notices that her body has been cleaned and her sunken chest propped up. Dell ended up paying for the morticians to fix Naileen up. So we're getting a little bit more dough, doing some nice things for our Kara. And then Esther performs the burial ritual for Naileen. Kara gives a secret to Naileen for the dead to carry. I'm so sorry, Naileen. Tell Kara Menta I'm sorry about her too. And tell her I wish it was me. Every time it happens, I wish it was me. Before getting to what we know, Dell seems to be helping out Kara a lot more. So I can already tell your thoughts on Dell so far, but what were you thinking about in this section before the reveal, and thoughts on the funeral and Kara's confession?
So the funeral, like you were before we went live, like the funeral. It was nice. I really liked this section of it. I thought it was really, really well written. I didn't understand why. I guess Kara was apologetic because I don't understand why Kara was apologetic to Naileen, because Naileen was the one that wanted to jump. And it wasn't Kara's fault because the Eldridge Company was the one that told her to go there when they thought she was dead and she wasn't. And then she caused her all that pain. So like,
I think she's seen herself die too many times.
Maybe. I was trying to wrap my head around why you apologizing to Naileen, because it had nothing to do. You were never at fault the whole time, which I guess is why a main protagonist is always selfless enough to like still feel fault in something that you had no control over.
I think part of it is just like, in a different world, I would be the one who died and you'd be the one that survived, kind of thing.
Okay.
And so it's. Okay. I think that's what she's apologizing. I don't think she's apologizing for what happened per se, just the fact that she's alive and Naileen isn't.
Yeah, and then just to go back with, and then to go because at this point she really didn't. I don't think do we know how bad Kara Menta was as a bigot?
Not yet.
Okay, that's so that at that point, because again I'm jumping ahead. And
we're about to find out, but we don't know yet because
freaking Dale, like you've been flirting. I'm not gonna. Nope, we haven't gotten there. We haven't gotten there yet.
Kara was the one flirting.
I know Kara was the one, but Dale wasn't saying stop it. Dale went along with it. This is like every relationship where people are flirting, and because they show each other attention.
Then we get another reveal. Esther has known the whole time that Kara is not the Kara she grew up with. When Earth 22 Kara first met Earth Zero family, she brought Esther a gift. Esther tells Kara that Kara Menta hated her and made things really hard for Esther, so much so that she wanted to run away. So when she saw her bringing a gift, she's like, this is not my sister. Nope. But when this new Kara showed up, everything was better. Esther reveals that she had been praying for Kara to become different, and she got her wish, and she's not sorry about it. Even when she was old enough to realize Kara Lee being here meant Kara Menta must have died. She goes, I prayed for you and you came. To regret that would be to reject a miracle. Esther ends up staying the night with Kara and they spend the whole time talking to each other. Kara tells Esther everything except about the note, and Kara also learns more about Caramento from Esther, her internalized homophobia and her hatred of Dell, and kind of just her all around bigotry. So thoughts on this reveal and the Earth Zero Kara kind of being a bitch.
Well, that was the biggest reveal. Is just but the reveal of like, oh, by the way, we know you're not from here.
Mm-hmm.
That's not a big reveal. Also, it's
Yeah.
like if she has these tattoos on her, like is she keeping it like concealed the whole time? Like they had to have noticed.
Well, she said that she kept them concealed and that every time she had enough money, she would get them erased, and that the only tattoos that she currently has now are like the Nick on her back, and then I think like other things that is like very easy to conceal with like a shirt and shorts.
Right.
But like
and then
the
also,
ones
like,
on her legs and arms are gone.
Yeah, and then also too, like what Esther was saying, like her personality is different. So is it just Esther? Like, was Caramenta the same to her stepfather and mother as Cara Lee is to her stepfather? Like 6 years, 6 years, and no one freaking knew other than Esther, and just went along with it because finally her sister is being kind to her.
Well, and they kind of put it in that she like treated men better than women, so like she treated her mom and Esther like shit, but treated Daniel and Michael very well. So it really was more of a. So her mom should know that it's not her, but we never get from her perspective.
That's the thing, is like Esther's the only one that like, yeah, I know you were not from here a while ago. Like, okay, yeah, that makes sense. Because you knew eventually, like that reveal wasn't like I was saying, like you're 6 years and you don't write this book and be on a Earth that's not your Earth for 6 years and not have someone go, oh, by the way, I know you're not.
She got the leg up that Caramenta wrote every day, so she had all of her journals to be like, okay, this is how she felt.
Yeah, I knew that part, but
still, you're acting like someone else,
right?
Who's had different life experience than you.
I mean, I guess from mother and father standpoint, it's like, oh, they've turned a new leaf. Great. And just roll with it.
Yeah. And also maybe part of like, because she's such a bad mother on other Earths, maybe like part of that existed on Earth Zero as well.
Terrible mother. When I was going through that, I was like, Jesus Christ, this is ooh.
All right. The next day, Kara tells Jean about the note, and he tells her not to go to the meeting. Kara doesn't listen to him and goes to the location on the note, and the person she ends up meeting with is Adam Bosch. He summoned her to the garden because he knows she killed him. Adam Bosch has been trying to kill the other hymns from other worlds, and Kara helped him out without realizing it, so he is giving her a bonus and recruits her to kill the other doppelgangers. She also learns that Jean used to be Adam Bosch's assassin, one of his maintenance men. So we learn that the maintenance people are actually his assassins. So we get that reveal there. Kara immediately goes to visit Jean at his wife's restaurant. She says that they advertise as authentic Ivorian food, but that the food she makes for the Wiley City public has half the smell and spice of the food she makes at home. So I thought that was funny there. Kara is upset with Jean, but he did what he had to do out of necessity. If he stayed in his situation back home, he could have ended up like all his other doppelgangers, dead. Jean also tells Kara that Adam Bosch has been wanting to recruit her since she was hired, and Jean advises her to ignore what she knows and to apply to an analyst position and get her citizenship in 4 years, and then she can work for another company after that. She, for the time being, decides to follow his advice. So, thoughts?
That's quite the conundrum that she was with, because Adam was like, you can. It's the whole typical of like, join me and everything of the whole world is yours. And she's just like, I'm just trying to do my time, man. Like, why are you trying to entangle me in all this other bullshit? Plus, she got that Nick 175 and the Earth 175 on the back of her mind. That's where I kind of thought where her process was, is the fact of like, at the end of the day, I've seen the worst of Adam Bosch. Not this Adam Bosch, but I've seen the worst.
I've seen the worst of Adrenic. Yeah.
Yes, Adrenic Adam Bosch. So she's seen the worst of that, and that's why she's reluctant of just doing her time, because if she joins that, she's going to go, she sees how bad it could get, and just doesn't want to be associated with that. That's where I got with that.
Then next, because this keeps rolling, keeps chugging along, Esther then calls Kara to tell her that her brother Michael is missing. We find out Michael was one of the ones who was the one who stole the powder, and he became a runner. He already got the tattoos, so he can never come back from being a runner. So that was a sad moment between him and Esther.
Yeah, this is every type of poverty written story that you have, is that one character that doesn't see a sense of belonging and wants to find that. We had it in the new Spider-Man show that just came out, where the brother doesn't, like, everyone else is doing something great, but they're just there and they want a sense of belonging. Who they find a belonging with, because they're vulnerable to, oh, they're showing me kindness and love, stuff like that.
Yeah.
So I'm gonna go with it. It that sucked to when you got that, because of how much Esther cared, and she was going to be the patriarchy of that family eventually, and all she cared about was making sure everyone was good, and she still wasn't there enough for her brother, and her brother ended up being a runner.
Then there is a company assembly, and Adam Bosch announces that there will be a commercial traversing trip made possible by a new inoculation against the backlash of duplicates, and there will only be 5 spots available. Kara has a hunch that there isn't any inoculation, that they will have to kill the doppelgangers on the other worlds for them to traverse. Kara then steals Jean's fob to give her access to the higher floors. She did some digging and found one reference attributing the discovery to a specific department on the 78th floor. She goes up to the 78th floor. There is absolutely nothing there, but she does get electrocuted because she gets locked on the floor. She tries to leave, then the electric net comes, but Dell comes to the rescue and saves her, takes her to Dell's apartment, where she falls unconscious on Dell's couch. So before we go to the reveal the next morning, thoughts on this part?
Yeah, this is your typical, like, oh, this is like just a story beat wise. It's like, oh, we found it. No, it's not there. It's the princess is another castle, guys. Type of trope. So that's just kind of what my thought was.
The princess doesn't exist in this.
The princess doesn't exist in the castle, by the way. But yeah, just sometimes when you think like, oh, there's some big overarching reveal, it's not as deep as you think. It's also, but mainly it was the princess is another castle type of thing.
Dell makes Kara breakfast, and we find out that before Caramenta traversed to Earth 22, Dell kissed her, and she kissed Dell back. And the next morning, Dell received a message from Caramenta saying Dell was the devil and sent to tempt her. Caramenta called Dell a sinner and said if Dell ever so much as looked at Kara for too long again, Kara would file a harassment suit. After they were matched for the first jump, Kara told Dell she would request a transfer when she returned, but then she returns. Earth 22's Kara returns, and Earth 22 Kara never requested a change, and they've worked together for now 6 years. And the Kara we know that's from Earth 22 is flirting with her, and Dell can't act upon it because she's like, she's gonna report me. She's just being cruel to me. And so throughout the book, you think Dell is a Wily City snob who doesn't want to be with a lowly person from Ashtown, but then you get this reveal that she has always liked Kara and wanted to be with her, but stayed away because she was afraid of the repercussion of a Kara that doesn't exist anymore. So how did you feel about this reveal?
Freaking Dell.
I say friggin' Caramenta.
Yeah, Kara Menta too, but like I understand. Like this is where we're like, all right, freaking Dale the whole time, and then this happened. Like, okay, I can kind
You're
of see
freaking
it.
Dell because it's breaking your ship.
Yeah, mainly.
To me, when I read this, I was just like, wow, Caramenta fucked everything up.
Yeah, she really did. Because you understand both the motives. Is like Kara Lee was just like, yeah, I don't want to give up I don't want to. I'm in love with Dell, and then Dell's like, I'm in love with Kara. Not, I mean, and we're flirting 6 years.
Yeah. But if she knows, like, oh, if I try to go for this, because the thing is that
Because we don't
Kara kissed her back too, so she could be like, oh, she could be in this and like be completely consenting one moment, and then the next moment be like, I didn't consent.
Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. Like, yeah, I understand the toxicity that's involved here.
Yeah,
because and also too, Dell doesn't want to do that because they don't want to get she don't want to get reported, and also Kara Lee doesn't want to do that because she doesn't want to be found out that this isn't her Earth.
I think Carly more is just because she puts it here. Kara assumed the worst because she always assumed the worst of Wileyite. At the end of the day, I was the one who couldn't look past class, not Dell. So I think it's from that. She didn't want to give Dell the satisfaction. Kind of just like, oh, she's just a Wiley snob. So
which is why she should just be with Nick 175. Call it a day.
Kara and Jean meet up again, and Kara returns the fob. Kara asks Jean how he can live with the knowledge. And he responds, have you seen the list of leading bidders? The youngest is 2 decades older than the life expectancy where I come from. Every year, walled cities get richer and more developed, and every year, rural provinces get poorer and sicker. The other side of the scale tips down because of their rise, and they do nothing to balance it. I'm supposed to care about these 5 when they have ignored entire plagues just outside these walls. I will give their deaths the same courtesy they've given the deaths of my people and yours. I'm going to kindly look away. Kara doesn't blame him, but she can't have that be her reason. Jean still wants Kara to take the analyst test. So on Sunday, she airdrops the information about Adam Bosch to the Wiley City Tech Crimes digital box. And then on Monday, she takes her exam and gets a perfect score.
Yeah. It's a cruel world out there, guys.
Yeah.
Dog eat dog world in that situation.
To me, I kind of side with Jean on this. I wouldn't be a murderer.
I didn't want to say it. I really didn't want to say it, but yeah.
Yeah, like I personally wouldn't like be a murderer, but if like the people who are doing really bad things get murdered, I'd just be like, well, it wasn't me doing it.
It's all part of the plan. You know, the whole Joker thing of like the whole Joker conundrum is like it's all part of the plan. But if I say this one thing that everyone loses their minds, if it's all part of the plan, like all these bad people get murdered.
I mean, murder is still murder.
Yeah,
if it happens,
it's Luigi in the CEO debate.
Mm-hmm. So I like to. I'm just gonna kindly look away, just like them. Mm-hmm. And you know what? He ain't wrong. He ain't wrong.
Yeah, it's just like when bad people, it's like you're not the judge, you're an executioner, but neither are we. But we understand it.
See, like that's why I personally, like I said, I personally wouldn't do it because I'm not judge, jury, and executioner. Although I do have to go to, I got assigned to jury duty, so I do have to go to be a jury, part of a jury possibly. But it's one of those ones like that person has to deal with whatever repercussions that is if they take that action. But I'm not gonna be like I'm gonna kindly look away. Anywho, it's illegal for Wiley City to investigate a citizen without their knowledge. So Adam Bosch knows about the anonymous tip, and he thinks it was Jean and sends maintenance to handle him. We have Kara runs to the place where she and Adam Bosch had their first meeting and sees Adam beating up Jean. Kara says it was her, but Adam doesn't believe her. Adam says that Jean already told him no one else has access to his login and has never lost his fob. Jean tells Adam that he has started to care about all the lives he has taken. as he has gotten older and wanted to go out doing one good thing. So 2 maintenance men kind of escort Kara out, and Kara reports it to authorities, but we never really hear anything from that report. Kara tries to call Gene, and after 32 missed calls, his family picks up and says that Gene was checking the industrial hatch just outside the city, and runners found him and killed him. That's the lie that we've been told now. So, how did you feel about the ending of part 3 and Gene's death?
Yeah.
What the fuck?
What the fuck? Also, the fact that they're trying to correct Adam and like he's actually like listening to it, which is something I was not expecting. But hence the point of there's different Adams in different worlds. So some will be, all right, I'll listen to you. Still like my power, still want to have the power, but how do I keep it and keep an uprising or something of that? So it's that weird thing where you had Adam listening to it. At the end of the day, he's like, "Nah, fuck Gene, you're gonna die." But at least you had a little bit of humanity coming out of Adam in this.
I would say you saw humanity. I saw 0 humanity out of Adams, and because he killed Gene, so fuck him.
but it maybe it was the way it was written to show that he had humanity, but really in the back of his mind, he's like, "Fuck this, fuck Gene."
No.
So maybe I misinterpreted it. Happens that way. Everyone interprets art.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, to me, I'm just like, yeah.
If this was a movie, Adam would have been like, "Yeah, sure," and then shot Gene in the head. Like there would have been no humanity whatsoever. Where a book, you can at least, as an author, you can at least you can show. Oh yeah, sure. No, there's no.
Yeah, he. I think it's what we see. This is
more manipulation, and I got manipulated. Is what you're saying?
Maybe a little bit, but that wasn't even what I was going to say. I was going to say that you really finally fully get to see the cruelty of Earth Zero's Adrenic Adam in this, where you didn't see that cruelty as much before. He's letting his cruelty out. But we go to part 4. So again, books. Woo! And Josh right now, he's going to put in the link because we're almost done with this book, and we'll have all our Patreon and Discord users come in if you'd like to. Even if you haven't read the book, we'd love to hear from you. But back to Science vs. Religion, when asked what this discovery could teach us about what mattered, about death and human nature, and how to make the world a gentler place, both parties were silent. But we were right, the scientist said, and so were we, the spiritual said. So Kara is depressed. Rightfully so. She spends her days in bed, leaving only to eat and go to the bathroom. In her second week of laying around, she drives to Ashtown to visit Exley at the house, to cry in her arms as she holds her and plays with her hair. Kara needed physical touch, not the sexual kind, and she stays the night. And then when she goes home, she was still sad and distraught and filled with guilt, but she felt better. So she spent a night with her people, getting kind of what she needed there. Then we have Gene's funeral, and we see a little bit of the difference between a Wiley City funeral and an Ashtown funeral. It's a little less personal in Wiley City than it is in Ashtown. So, and the mayor quickly makes it political, saying there needs to be more security at the border, even outside the wall. And so we get some of that, which I guess you can bring in a little bit to today's day. But also, like, the mayor quickly, like, this man's dead, but let me talk about politics. Adam also speaks with Kara, threatening her and revealing that he knew Gene was not the traitor and that she is not Caramenta. Before Caramenta's first pull, she went to Adam to complain about Dell kissing her, and he knew she was too weak and self-righteous to do what needed to be done. So he set up the whole thing for Earth 22 Kara to come, because he's like, she's going to be ruthless. She's going to take over her life to get what she wants, and I need a ruthless Kara. I do not need this self-righteous bitch. So thoughts on that?
Yeah, Adam is a mischievous asshole.
Yeah.
Yeah, he's vindictive. He's, like I said, they had the little spig of humanity. Then he killed Jean, and I was like, all right, yeah, this guy sucks. I just want her to bring in Nick 172, 175, and just destroy it. But we never got that. We're gonna get to that point in a second. But the fact of like just the thought process of Adam's lust for power. This is where we finally got revealed. Is like he knew that was not her the whole time because he made it happen.
Yeah,
and that's that layer that I love about certain novels and books. It's just like I had the puppet strings.
I did it.
I had the puppet strings the whole effing time. That's right. It was me all along, and that's where the BioShock reference. If no one's ever played the game, spoiler alert.
Never played the game.
There's a really great twist. And Adam, the main guy of BioShock, the first game's name was Adam. But there was a big twist about it. And you realize that the puppet master was there the whole time in front of your face.
But Kara shows up for her next pull and sees that Del is looking up info on Earth 22. Kara finally speaks to Del truthfully when she speaks badly about runners. So this is the first time she's ever like kind of standing up for herself.
I know.
Her town,
forever, but we got there.
Yeah. And Del kind of smiles and says, I've gotten used to pretending you're from nowhere. It's a change to hear you declare yourself. So she's finally like repping Ashtown. Then we have Kara meets with Mr. Cheeks and asks him to arrange a meeting with Emperor Nick. Before meeting Earth Zero Nick, Kara goes back to Earth 175, knowing that Nick there, she knew that he was going to save one gun. He still destroyed the others, but he saved one and picks it up along with 6 bullets and a picture of Adrenic as Emperor. He tries to convince her to stay, but she's like, I got other business to deal with.
Yeah, I understand why she left, but damn.
I know. Kara then meets with Earth Zero Nick, who leaves a mark on Kara's neck, but eventually agrees to a deal. Nick then requests a day pass and brings about 15 runners with him to scope the Eldritch Institute and leave a message that says, we did not kill Jean Sanogo. While Adam is having a party at his residence. Kara also goes into Adam's bedroom and on the way out runs into Del. Mr. Cheeks grabs Kara and he escorts her to her apartment, and as the other runners and Nick kind of leave, and then Del follows them and attacks Mr. Cheeks, thinking Kara's in a relationship with him and that he was the one that left the marks on her neck. And that kind of gets cleared up, but Del's just like, you're harming the woman I love. I'm gonna beat you up. So
when I saw this, I'm like, Del, freaking Del.
Hey, she's a woman in
love.
I
know, I'm aware.
Anyway, Kara ushers Del.
Because she doesn't know what we know. That's the problem.
She doesn't know that's the problem. But Kara ushers Del into her apartment and finally tells her the truth. After Del assumes that Kara is doing it for the money, she's like, don't worry, babe. Like, I can give you money. And just like, this is not about money, Del. It was almost a little insulting. But anyways, Del tells Kara that she checked the record of Carmenta's first pool. It had death entered without enough evidence, just like 175. She was suspicious and was hoping to speak to Bosch alone. She was headed to his library, not his bedroom, which Kara kind of like put a ding there, like, why were you going to his bedroom? Kara then tells Del not to come to work on Friday. And the following day, Thursday, Del got Kara give to her interview a suit and tells Kara that she will always want to be wherever Kara is. And they kiss. And Kara tells Del she loves her, and Del tells her to come home with her tonight. So I know it's not your ship, but they finally hook up.
Yeah, it's about time. But why gotta harm Mr. Cheeks, man? Like, Mr. Cheeks just been chilling the whole time. Like, he's done nothing but help you out, also trying to not die by helping you out. Like, and then you're gonna attack, but she doesn't know. Del didn't know.
Del didn't know.
But I'm just like the whole time, like, Del, I understand why you're like refraining, but like 6 years, y'all been flirting with each other.
I understand it. I understand it.
Like, Crapper, get off the pot. 6 years.
I know. I
But
know.
it wouldn't be a good book if he didn't draw out the will they,
The
won't they,
pining. Yeah.
the Hallmark movie. They kiss at 59 minutes.
The next day, Kara goes to her interview in the suit Dell gave her, and an actual maintenance man, not a runner, dressed up as one, escorts her to Adam's office. Adam says he made a deal with Nick. Nick told him he would secure jobs for his more promising staff to work as maintenance and sent a pile of cash to sweeten the deal. Kara laughs at Adam, seeing he made a mistake. So he insulted the Emperor by making an offer remotely. You insulted him further by giving him cash, and then you insulted him a third time by assuming he would part with his men if you paid enough. They aren't his slaves, they're his family. Showing that he may be from Ashtown. He might be the Emperor's son, but he has forgotten about where he's come from, and he has become way too wily. And we also get the reveal, Kara poisoned Adam's eye drops when she was in the bedroom. She put a little poison in the eye drop. A little
Slow
poison.
Death. Slow death. You're going to be blind.
For slow death. And he's pissed off. He's wanting to kill her. He gets the maintenance man to drag her, but Dell to the rescue. Right. She called HR. She called HR and to get her fired and immediately deported, which saved her life. And Kara goes back to Ashtown, finds a job she enjoys, and her and Dell reunite. So how do you feel about the ending?
So it's a little anticlimactic, I will say, because you figured Adam, I don't want Adam a slow death. I want Adam to be gone. Like, I mean, that's what every other...
He's dying, though.
Yeah, he's dying. Again, the layers of Nick and the fact that he has this... He's cruel as hell in this world, but he still has this code about him. And you can... And also, too, as a sign of our society, you can't just throw money at it and expect it to correct itself. Because that's what Adam was trying to do. And Nick took it as an insult. It's like, I can get money anytime I want. That's not the point. Come meet me face to face. We'll delegate and we'll figure some shit out. And Adam was like, I don't want to face you because you're fucking Nick.
There's rules of the game. There's rules of Ashtown, and they're different than Wiley City.
Yeah.
And he went by the rules of Wiley City when he should have went by the rules of Ashtown.
Yep.
You done fucked up.
You done fucked up. And that's why Esther and Nick are my favorite characters. Like, Kara was our guide through this book.
Mm-hmm.
And Nick and Esther were the most just like grounded in a sense. Like I said, no one was perfect in this book.
Yeah, no.
Everyone had their faults.
Flawed characters.
Flawed as hell characters. Adam was the worst of the worst. Nick was terrible, but he had a code. Mr. Cheeks wasn't the greatest, had a code. Gene.
Mr. Cheeks is one of my favorites.
Yeah, Mr. Cheeks is good. He's Iroh. He literally is Iroh. Like, just what he is.
But with less tea.
With less tea. Right. And we don't know. And then the son situation that makes us all cry if you ever watch that show. But yeah, like Nick, Esther, Mr. Cheeks, Gene, just awesome characters. I know we're not talking about the protagonist because I don't think the protagonist is supposed to be our favorite character. She was our through line. Mm-hmm. And the fact that I understood, like, it was just, you thought it would come to this great conclusion. And it was more of, shit, we got to wrap this up. That's kind of how I felt. I felt a little Coen Brothers of, well, that happened. Like at the end of every Coen Brothers film, it's like, there's not a big conclusion. It's more of a resolution and not what you wanted.
I think she answered all of the things and tied up all of the things that needed to be tied up. It's just that it happened very quickly.
Yeah.
And so there's some things.
There's a lot of third acts, even in movies, have a situation.
And so there could have been there was a pace to it that I would say that it could have been slowed down a little bit, but I'm not mad at it. Like, it wasn't bad. It was, but I can see the ending feeling a little, okay, that happened.
Yeah. But she ended up being, as far as the overall in-depth thing that we talked about before we were live, her resolution ended up still being the space between Ashtown and Wiley, hence space between worlds. So if you really want So in a sense, people are like, because I've read some other reviews, and they're like, yeah, I was so on the edge of my seat, and then it just ended. And like I understand, but like I was like, yeah, but she ended up being the space between worlds. It just happened to be an actual world and not multiple.
Yeah, the space between cities. But let's bring on some Discord members. The first one I see, he's from Earth 182. His name is Ryan. Let's bring him up.
And I will be right back, Ryan. So I'll let you and Soul discuss, and I'll be right back.
Sounds good.
But always a pleasure seeing you.
So Ryan, thoughts on the book?
It's fine. I mean, I wasn't one of those that I couldn't put it down. I mean, it was one of those where, all right, I need to get through it this month. I can read a couple chapters and then stop at the end of the chapter, and I'm like, okay, I can get back to it later. I'm not like 12 o'clock at night. I'm like, nah, I gotta reread another. I gotta get another chapter. I gotta see what happens next. But I mean, it was an enjoyable read. I mean, I'm not depressed with the choice.
Yeah, it is one of those that there is pacing issues, and I will 100% agree with that. Parts of the book, I like a lot of the messaging of the book that it in it, and we've had earlier. So Josh didn't really like Dell as much because he had his ship of wanting Nick 175 and Kara together. So how did you feel about the ending of it kind of being her and Dell?
I mean, I was fine with it. I mean, I'd have to think that there would be a lot more issues with Nick 175 that like best way to describe it is like, yeah, he's a good character, he's a good guy, but how could she not have issues with all these other Nicks and some sort of, how could he not continue to relate the two? Like, he's a good guy, but then this Nick did this to me, or like always comparing the Nicks as opposed to at least starting afresh with Dell, even though I know they had Dell at a few other places, but I kind of, even though I'm kind of agreeing about that 6-year gap on this, I'm like, yeah, you gotta move on. I mean, that was kind of.
Thank you, Ryan. The whole time I'm like, it's been 6 years. Crapping it off the pot. Like, what are we doing here?
I mean, why are you torturing yourself, Dell? I mean,
right.
They both were.
Yeah,
but at least, I mean, Kara had her own, issues, but not realizing that her other half, whatever, doppelganger, was the one that was causing the issues. I mean, at least Dell knew both sides of it. Of like, hey, I mean, I want something that I can't have, so I'm just going to torment myself for 6 years. I'm like,
and I'm not going to say anything either.
Yeah, that'd be, I don't know.
Communication? What is that?
Yeah, you at least think you're going to have like, after year 2, maybe just some minor, slight discussions of, is there anything here? But I mean,
I would thought even to when she realized, oh, she's been to my apartment before, like, and then like they kind of just drop that as well, because she's like, oh, she knows where I live. Oh, she knows that it used to look different, but then she never says anything either. So I thought that's why I said, like, it's one of my least favorite tropes is the miscommunication when like that's used to have the plot go forward. So I understand why, but I don't like the miscommunication trope. But to reveals, what would you say was your favorite reveal of the book?
I'd have to say that Kara not being the actual Earth 01. I mean, that was like, oh, wait a minute, what? I had to absorb what happened.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the Esther reveal was a whole its own reveal. I mean, I thought it was interesting, but yeah, 6 years of that, and then nobody mentioning anything.
Right.
Yeah.
The way it was led up to it is why I really liked it. Like you can tell, like that was Micaiah's like, all right, I got everyone. This is my magnum opus. Now the rest of the book is still going to be good, but this is going to be one that you're going to be like, the fuck? Like that's exactly like how I felt it. I had to like that was when I kept saying like during our like the beginning of the episode, I was like, I had to go back and read. It's like, did I read that correctly? Like she just said she's been on this earth the whole time that we all this exposition that I've had to take notes on to figure out what the hell's going on. It's been 6 years.
And it's a whole different person.
Yep, and it's a whole different person.
No.
Josh, any questions for Ryan?
Yeah. Who was and again, I stepped away, so I didn't hear. But what were your favorite top 3 characters of this book, and why?
Top 3. I mean, that's the thing. Obviously, okay, so I did like Esther. The 6-year gap of not, hey, I've known you this long, it was one thing, but to the point that she also knew her for that long, and still there's a reason, her probably realizing that there's a reason why she's hiding this. I mean, like not trying to pull it out of her, and she developed her own relationship with Akara that her knowing that it wasn't the same person, helping doing the things for her, because I don't know if it was mentioned, just all the different hints she was helping Kara throughout the process of like, yeah, this is so and so, and you knew this from this thing, and
Right.
and so I'm just saying, her helping her and just a general kindness was just quite enjoyable. I mean, here's the thing about the characters. There was quite a bit of them in many different, obviously in all the different worlds, and then trying to keep track of who was who. I mean,
Right.
and obviously Mr. Cheek was he. I ended up enjoying him after a while. Just like before, he was just some random character. Then throughout it, he just kept on being more involved. And I mean, and yeah, and I obviously I'll like Nick's 175. What wasn't sure for a while. I mean,
right?
Especially
no.
I mean, yes. Are you going to help her, or are you getting her fixed just to hurt her later? I mean, is it?
Right?
I was like, I mean, he could be in a good mindset, or just trying to use her for information. I mean, there was a couple of many different ways he could have gone after Kara was better, and I don't know.
And he could still be a bad ruler too. We don't know.
Oh yeah,
no.
I mean, there is. I mean, when we're talking about how quickly it ended, and there are still a lot of characters, and you're still able to get it. She's gonna have to find a way, obviously, to get back to these other worlds. I mean, I have no idea of how they're actually gonna make the next part of like, okay, how do I get back to 175? How do I find out what's been going on there? Other than they're being kind of like, she's kind of being told there a little bit at the end, like little updates, but not really the full spiel of actually being able to go there. I mean, you're not like you're going to walk back into work and say, hey, shoot me over to 175. I mean, I doubt she has the tools at that shop she's working at.
Right. And it seems like they were able to blow up the hatch where, even though Adam Bosch is still alive, but he's slowly dying, it's going to take some time to rebuild that. So there's no traversing currently happening. So she can't even hop over now. And who knows how long it's going to take to rebuild the hatch.
It's like, will Adam actually even be a part of the story or be alive in the book 2 type of thing? It's like, what are these? What is that story would be? I mean, it almost felt like it was quick and to finish. I mean, not very the most a little anticlimactic, but it was a little complete in essence, except for
Yeah.
Adam still being alive. I mean, uh, what else? I mean, yeah, if he
I
was
thought
dead,
it
then it'd
was
be
a
really over.
Yeah, I thought it was a standalone. I initially read it when it first came out in 2020, and I thought it was a standalone book. And then last year, she's like, I got a sequel. And I was like, oh, okay. And then I looked at it, and it's talking about a different Earth, and it's set on a different Earth in one of the. And it's weird to say the universe, but it gets all confusing. And so I don't think we're going to know any of the characters. I think it's going to be all new characters and could possibly be read as a standalone.
Okay, that makes actually a little bit more sense.
You think we might get like a Blade Runner like 2049 where it's like this whole like it's so many years in the future and then certain characters pop up of those
I don't
people?
even think that's going to happen. So like let's see here. It says in Ashtown, a rough and tumble desert community, the Emperor rules with poison claws and an iron fist. He can't show any sign of weakness, as the neighboring Raleigh city has spent lifetime beating down the people of Ashtown and would love nothing more than its downfall. There's only one person in the desert the Emperor fully trusts, and her name is Scales. So
sorry, I'm just thinking Mr. Cheeks and Scales.
and
Some of the
Scales.
And the Emperor's name is Rick, not Nick anymore. It's like, what? Okay.
Scales is the best at what she does, keeping everyone and everything in line. As a skilled mechanic and an even more skilled fighter when she needs to be, Scales is a respected member of the Emperor's crew who's able to keep things running smoothly. But the fragile piece Scales helps to maintain is fractured when a woman is mangled and killed before her eyes. Even more incomprehensible, there doesn't seem to be a murderer. So it feels like, oh, is this going to be like the same thing, just on a different Earth with different people?
Is it a murder mystery at this point? Like, what the heck?
Is it?
I just don't want Scales to be a Mary Sue.
It says
I don't think the way Micaiah, like that's the one thing I liked about Micaiah and having in her how she is Kara is Kara wasn't like just trick of all trade. She just she was the through line for the audience, and then we got to experience the other characters because she was just she made decisions, but she wasn't like the main thing. Oh, you got to make this decision. You got to make this decision. She was just like kind of a like, hey, this happened. Cool. Let's just roll with. She's like a roll with the punches type of character.
Yeah.
And just this is my world. This is where I'm living at. Cool. And she finally found a family that she felt like that loved her, and so she was good with that. Like she just found comfort the whole time. She was just trying to find comfort, other than the whole Dale 6-year shit. But she was just trying to find comfort the whole time because their other worlds were not presenting her comfort. She finally found comfort, and she was not complacent, but she was good with where she's at. It wasn't she was striving for something more.
Right.
She was just good with where she was content.
Yeah.
Well, she was trying to make it work in both on Earth Zero in both towns. I mean, she liked the family. She liked having that, even though it was a little bit weird to her. She had to definitely do her research to be able to try to fit in there. And I think she thought she was doing a pretty good job, except for some people knew. But and then she was trying to do her, but then she enjoyed her life actually in the the big city, and so I mean it's everybody just trying to improve their situation, or she was definitely trying to do that because her original situation wasn't great, so it made sense for her.
And then she was like content, and then she went to 175 and met Nick in 175, and it threw her world it threw her off about like, oh, this person who actually like who's been torturing me this whole time actually shows compassion and cares in a sense compared to what she was dealing with. And that's what kind of got her to the point of like, all right, let's just screw at him.
Yeah. And kind of looking here goes when more bodies start to turn up both in Ashtown and the wealthier walled off city. So like I think this might be even a prequel to, when they were just sending people through and they died. So I don't know, but this is the sequel. We'll figure it out.
I don't know.
I could almost see it. I could almost seeing it being a prequel to a world that doesn't have traversing, and they're the ones that actually
Yeah.
these are people are coming in from there and realizing
Yeah.
there's something going on, and like who are these people all of a sudden? And
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean,
Who,
because
who are
this
these
doesn't strike me
mangled
as a
bodies? Yeah.
yeah.
It just
Go ahead.
Go ahead, Ryan.
it just sounds like an Apple series to me, because the whole time I was reading this book, I was like, man, this is kind of like Silo, and Silo's really cool.
Oh, Silo! I like that show. That's good.
Yeah, I was like, this is
Good
kind of like
show.
Silo, and Silo is based off of a 3-part book, but it has like the haves and have-nots in a sense. It's kind of Silo's not as class based as this is like the big dichotomy between the two.
Yeah.
But it still is a class base, because if you're born here, this is where you're at. Like, that's it. There's no, you can't get up from that. At least this one, if you do this, like you become a traverser or something like that, but you got to stay a traverser or you go back down to
right. That's more
Snowpiercer. Yeah, Snowpiercer.
Yeah, clear class base there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everything's just getting off of like Shakespeare and like I said, Tale of Two Cities. Like at the first opening of that book, I'm like, am I reading Dickens just in different worlds? Like, just kind of what threw me off there at the start. Obviously, throughout the whole review, as you were listening, I was bringing up other medias that reminded me of this book.
Yes, Final Fantasy VII. Yes.
Was I not wrong? Was I not wrong?
If I knew, I have no idea. But I
okay, damn it! I was hoping someone would get that.
Yeah, you were talking about Final Fantasy VII, and I was like, never played that game.
I appreciate the history and remembering what's going on up in there with that. Yeah. Never know where you're going to pull it out.
No, I have a lot of I have a lot of random ass media in my head.
Josh, instead of filling his head with more important things, it's all sports and media.
Yeah. So I can find something. I was like, oh, that reminds me of this, which just makes me understand the character or something like that. Like, again, with Mr. Cheeks and Iroh from The Last Airbender. I'm like, oh, that reminds me of Iroh. That type of character was like, yes, he's working for
Mr. Cheeks is a little different than Iroh, but yeah, I understood your comparison there.
Yeah.
But Ryan, do you have anything more to say about this? Apparently our other Discord members, I know Justin is not feeling well, so he's not coming on. But any more to speak about this book or your excitement about next month's book?
I mean, I thought it was funny that it's kind of going to be based in Seattle-ish. So, like, yeah, that's my neck of the woods. I should just hang out at the Space Needle and watch that or read it. But no, with this book, I mean, I did enjoy the fact of, yes, it's multiverse based, but it was a case of just decisions based. I mean, how you could end up and you make this decision, you go this way, or make a decision, and you could just totally change your lives. And I don't know, it's pretty prudent right now with everybody just making decisions, and I don't know.
Also, speaking about decisions, Ryan, Geno Smith, are you okay with that?
I mean, I'm fine with it. I mean, the reason why I came to Earth 182 is I was actually looking for an offensive line to Kansas City Chiefs, and I couldn't find one. Yeah. So I figured anyone was better than your Earth right now. Yeah. But yeah, no, it's fine. I mean, they should. It
was time to move on anyway. So
I mean, yeah. But they have no like backup plan right now. I mean, trust me, their backup quarterback it's a swing and a miss. So pick up somebody.
Yeah, and in another Earth, Russell Wilson would hand the ball off to Marshawn Lynch, and everybody be good in Seattle.
In another Earth, the Kansas City Chiefs probably still lose a Super Bowl, and they probably lose it against Josh Allen and the Dallas Cowboys.
I would take Dallas Cowboys, but Josh Allen, no. Lamar Jackson and the Dallas Cowboys are different.
Every Earth has a different combination.
Every Earth has a different. Maybe on one Earth, the Dolphins have won sooner than
they've won a playoff game since 2008. Yes. In another Earth, they have.
But
Lamar Jackson passes to Tyreek Hill for the game-winning Super Bowl touchdown, right?
I want a Super Bowl for Lamar so bad.
No,
Anyway, that's not what the show.
I know we go in tangents. It's fine.
Hey, come join us for Wrap It Up on Wednesdays where we talk all things sports. But Ryan, thank you so much for coming on. We really appreciate it, and I'm excited for next month's book as well.
Yep.
We're having fun.
To the library, pick it up tomorrow.
Dungeon Crawler
Carl.
Yeah,
thank you, Ryan.
All right,
see you next time.
Yeah, bye.
Well, Mabry, anything else you would like to say about this book and telling the people where to find us?
So this book, I would recommend it. I think it's a really good character piece. And it's a really cool, and it's once you get past like the first couple of chapters, once you get all through the exposition and kind of figure out the world and the twist of her being there for 6 years, the book really takes off. I don't like the fact that it wrapped up so quickly, but I understand the conclusion. So I would still recommend this book as far as a character piece. I thought it was really well written for that perspective. Like I said, didn't love it like you did, but still enjoyed it. Yeah. So out of 5, I would give it a 4.2.
And I'll definitely say my bias of like meeting the author definitely like adds into me.
Yeah. If I meet Micaiah, oh shit, I'm screwed up again.
And getting like, and when you meet the author too, and you are having long discussions and like just there and seeing the reason why she wrote something a certain way or what she was trying to come across with, like that adds so many more layers into it. So that definitely made me like the book a lot more than probably, because I still do like you said, there's issues of this book. It's not a perfect book, but it's still a good book.
I enjoyed it, and that's the point. But it's the same thing of I enjoy Rogue One is because I read the book leading into Rogue One. So a lot of the things that you got introduced, like her father and stuff in the movie, I already knew all that story going into it. So I was already built into that character. So even though her dad was in the movie for like 0.5, I knew exactly. So I was already invested in it. And then the movie happened. So that's why it's my second favorite Star Wars film of all time, because I read the book. Same thing. You meet the author, so you understand the more layers to the book and why the decisions were made. So I totally understand where you're coming from.
Well, anyways, Josh, where can the people find us?
Yeah. So we March Madness. We're in March, people. I know I've been talking about it, and I love it. We sleep in May because it's the best time of the year if you like college basketball, female and men. Okay. And so but myself and my buddy Jake will be going live for a reaction to the bracket reveals. Finally, Louisville is going to be in there for the first time in like 4 years. I'm so excited about it. Anyway, so that's going to happen. So me and Jake can get you ready to make sure your brackets are perfect, even though there's never been a perfect bracket in the history of brackets. But we're going to try. We're going to try and get you prepared to do that. This year. It's going to happen. It's going to be because of us and not because you like mascots. And then towards the draft, me and Tushka will be going live to give you update on what to do about fantasy, much less of all the offseason stuff that's been going on with the NFL. And of course, our regular shows, Rev Sports Wrap It Up, Wednesdays, 9 o'clock Central, 10 o'clock Eastern. As we wrap everything that is the week of sports, we basically just see the fire that is the burning, that is the Mavericks organization as far as NBA is concerned. See if Souls Panthers can go back to back, because it sure as hell ain't going to be Nashville, at least winning anything. And then obviously MLS, why FC Cincinnati deserves never to be in existence, and why the Red Bulls is their year. Trinity Rodman is the greatest female soccer player in this generation. We all talk about it on Wednesday. And then following up with that, Justin and I will be bringing you all the goodness that is in the world of wrestling for Ruckus Wrestling at 8 o'clock Central, 9 o'clock Eastern. That's what we got going on. That's what we have for you all. Like, subscribe, ring the doorbell. That's what we have for our
And if you would like to join us, the Discord link is down below. It's completely free, and you can join this book club and then come live and speak about the book just like Ryan did today. And this is the book.
I love that cover. I've said it before. I'll say it again.
Dungeon Crawler Carl by
Oh,
Matt
that's
Dinniman.
nice. Shout out to GIF who recommended it.
Yeah. Shout out to GIF. That's the other thing. If you join the Discord, you can recommend the book and then we vote on it. And so GIF ended up being the winner this time.
Yep.
But before we go, we got one here. They want to know, do you wear shoes sockless?
No.
Anywho, thank you guys for being here with us, and we'll see you next time.
See you.
Someone